We are incredibly fortunate to have Lisa Greenberg on She Sober Sydney as our guest today. Lisa is a fitness expert, has a regular fitness column, an amazing YouTube exercise program, and one of the most gloriously inspiring Instagram accounts, which just compels you to smile, giggle, and want to jump and move no matter what mood you've woken up in.
Yay.
She's, she's a mum, a wife, and living proof that you do have the power to pull yourself out of the depths of alcohol addiction and go on to live a glorious, fulfilling, and meaningful life. Lisa, I first saw you sitting on my couch as I watched 60 Minutes late last year. And from the very first words you said to the very end, I sat statue-like and shed more than a few tears, thinking Lisa's story is my story. And I don't feel that with many other people's stories out there to the extent that I did with yours. Like many out there, I am beyond grateful for your courage to go full-scale public with your story in such an utterly vulnerable and honest way. Because we know going loud and proud really helps those suffering in
Yeah,
silence. I'm thrilled you're
absolutely.
here. Welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to be part of your podcast. I'm honored.
Thank you. And have I missed anything out there in the intro?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, from broken to brilliant is what I say, or from rock bottom to rock star. And it is that polar opposite. 1 minute I was lying on the floor of my beautiful waterfront home, and the next minute, or rather 1 minute I was living a beautiful life in my beautiful home, and the next minute I was lying on the floor. Didn't feel that I could even sleep in my bed because I just thought, you are such a loser, Lisa. You do not deserve a bed. You do not deserve a shower. You do not deserve to be here because you are disappointing everyone around you.
Yeah.
And I'm the greatest fixer. I fix everyone. And no matter what I did, I could not fix me. At first I had to realize I was broken. I didn't know I was broken. I just thought I was party girl until
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah. Lisa, when did it all start for you? So when did you have your first drink and how did your use of alcohol, I guess, develop from there?
Yeah. Look, I'm very fortunate that I was brought up in a lovely family, a loving family, two parents that are still together now, was fortunate to have private school education, um, given all the benefits of a loving family. And, now with the benefit of hindsight, I can see that I was never truly content in myself. I was always striving, and even now I think striving is good. I say to everyone around me, I'm happy but hungry. I'm happy now, but I'm hungry for more. But the hungry far outweighed the happy. I was never content. I was never happy where I was. I always wanted to be with the next group of friends, or, the popular girl. And my parents were fairly strict, so I wasn't allowed to go out until I was older. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend until I was older. And it just seemed so dreadfully unfair. But now I know that if I'd loved myself a little bit more, none of that would have mattered. So perfectly normal upbringing, always striving just that little bit to be different to what I was. Had my first drink probably late 17, so not an early drinker by any
Yeah.
means. And just loved that feeling of, oh, I can chill the rules in my head. Lisa rules did my head in. I had to be this way, and I had to, be this certain person that was in my head, and then this chilled it, and then I could also be someone else. I could be party girl. I could be loud. I could be the funny one. That, deep down, I wasn't. I mean, I'm fun, but I wasn't this person that I was striving to be. And alcohol just blurred those edges for me.
Yeah.
And I was perfectly fine from 17 to probably for 30 years. The drinking was escalating to being known as the party girl, but I could stop, say no more, fine, go out for dinner, drive myself home, until probably 2016. So probably I was about 46, 47. My
Mm,
husband had a really big job. He was NRL of the CEO of the NRL, and his star was rising. And as a wife, if I had had that self-belief, self-love, self-worth, I should have been fine
mm,
alongside him, but I wasn't. It
yeah.
was almost like it was a seesaw. He was up and I felt I was down, and there was no comparison in his mind. And it was a conduit for me to say, I need more to be the funny girl, the party girl. We go out to functions with the premier or some really heavy duty functions. And I thought, I've got nothing to add.
Mm,
I've got nothing to add here. I'm the boring one. No one's going to want to speak to me. So I would start to have a couple of glasses before we went out.
yeah.
And knowing what I know now, obviously I'd crossed that little red line of alcoholism.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
there was no going back. But then it became normal. I need this in order to go out. And, the progressive nature of alcoholism is that, a half bottle became one became two. And then it was, I need this like my legs.
Mm,
And, and that's what scares me even now, because there's
yeah.
no cure for our disease, but I have to learn to manage it. And I do. But,
That's
I am
right.
one reach away from ever going back there. And
Yeah.
I choose not to.
Yeah. Lisa, for me, I drank, I think, to find my voice, my confidence, opinions, and I had to go
Mm,
full circle to find those things internally in me to be able to live without it.
mm,
Why do you,
absolutely.
yeah, and what did you have to find, do you think, within you and within your, I guess, greater life to be able to live without it?
I had to learn to like the girl staring
Mm,
back at me in the mirror. And I had to learn to turn off the negative bias in my brain and the torch that was shining on all the things I didn't like. Whether they were perceived or real, it was real to me. And I had to learn to focus on the things that were good and were positive about me. All the Lisa rules. I wanted to be that girl at the party that jumped into the pool fully clothed that everyone would think was really funny. Now, I'm not spontaneous. I like a plan. I
yeah.
like a plan. I'm not great with a pivot. So once I'd had a few wines, I would be the girl that jumped in the pool. And now I think I don't want to be that girl. It's not who I am. And if
Yeah.
I decide to do that one day, I can do it sober. But I had to learn to like myself, but not just as I am now. Use that as my foundation and then keep evolving and keep learning to like more about myself and love more about myself. And for me, especially, it's gratitude and service. It's gratitude every day, grateful for my life, but also giving back to especially young women who are struggling with alcohol. That is what gives me my sense of purpose and passion. And I jump out of bed every morning. When I was doing the 60 Minutes interview, Ali Langdon said, you do jump out of bed, don't you? I said, yes, I jump out at 5 a.m. and I'm so excited. I've set my intentions for the day and yay, today's going to be wonderful. It's brilliant. I'm alive. I'm sober and I've got my husband. And, and it sounds very Pollyanna and very simplistic, but it works for me.
Yeah. I look at my alcohol use picked up speed when I left my work as a lawyer, and then I had more time at home, more
Yeah.
lunches, socializing, and
Yeah.
then it was just this dramatic decline. And I had read that there was a similar experience for you when you sold your
Very much
business.
so.
Is losing a
Yeah, very
sense
much so.
of purpose, identity, and I guess validation that's external to the family,
Yes.
external to the household, something that
Uh,
um, was a part of the piece for you?
Absolutely. And again, I say now with the benefit of 4.5 years sobriety that
Mm,
if I had my self-belief, it wouldn't matter. I could close my business down and be completely content and not be striving to find self-esteem in a bottle or anywhere else.
mm,
But yes, I closed my business after 20 years. And I guess I defined myself as being the helper who got people fit and healthy. And then when I made that decision to close that business, I just fell in a rut.
mm,
Look, does the disease being what it is, it may have caught me at another stage, who knows? But I know that that was definitely a catalyst for me. And Todd's
yeah,
star was rising, mine was falling in my eyes.
yeah,
Whereas if I'd said, no, that doesn't define me. I am who I am. You know, it wouldn't have taken, I don't think it would have taken me down that route, but it did. And
Yeah.
now I'm actually grateful for that turn of events, because it's made me a much better wife, a better mother, a better friend, a more grateful person. But
Mm.
it's a shitty way to do it. It really is. But
It's hard. It's a
it's an
hard
awful
path.
way. It's a hard path. But I think you're right that, when you lose your way, you have a couple of choices. You can try and find something external, or you can work on the inside, and the inside's
Mm.
far
Yeah,
harder to do. But why do I have to define myself by that?
I
No
don't.
idea.
Yeah. Did you get to the point where there was a rock bottom? Many people
Absolutely.
don't. I
Yeah.
did as well.
Yeah.
There was a line in the sand. Would you mind just
Yes.
talking a bit about what
No, not at
happened?
all.
Yeah, for you.
I was hiding alcohol all around the house. Behind me, I've got a gym here, and I had bottles hidden in boxing gloves and behind dumbbells, and
Yeah.
because the thought of not having it was just so horrific that I needed it for my to be me.
Mm.
So my family had said to me, if you drink, when they realized that they saw the hiding, they said, if you drink again, we're going to leave. And my husband got advice that he had to sort of, as you said, put that line in the sand. But he was also terrified, because if he said it, he also had to follow through. And they came home one day and I'd been drinking.
Yeah.
And I just blatantly lied to their face. And that's the two things that repulse me about my disease, is
Mm.
the lying and the selfishness, because they're two characteristics that I don't like. And yet I would look in the mirror and see a liar and a selfish person
Yeah.
who would do anything, get out of my way. If I take money from the piggy bank, I will. If I take it I need that wine, and get out of my way, because that's what I need. And then they packed up and they left.
Yeah.
And, being a victim, I was like, oh, poor me, they've left me. And then I was like, good, I can do what I want now. I don't have
I
to
can
hide my bottles
drink.
anymore. And
Mm.
yeah, I can hide. And I love my fashion, my clothes, and all these
Mm.
nice things. And I stopped wearing nice clothes. I just stayed in my pajamas. I didn't shower, and I just laid on the floor. I knew deep down that there was something not right, and that I
Mm.
was deeply full of shame because I didn't get into my bed. I thought, you don't deserve a bed, Lisa.
Oh.
Lay on the concrete floor, the polished concrete floor, which was so nice. Now that's where you sleep, because you're a pathetic person. And I kept going like that for about 3 weeks. People would drop in. People told
That's a
me they
long
dropped in to
time.
see me. Yeah, I don't remember them coming in. And then one day I just thought, I can't do this
Mm.
anymore. I, I'm a lapsed Catholic. I don't go to church, but I believe there's some higher power there. I remember just looking up at the ceiling and saying, I need some help. I don't know
Yeah.
who I was talking to. And as clearly as I can see you today, it was like there was a message written on the ceiling that said, get to AA.
Ah.
And I just said, no. But I actually wish we might have to take that out, because I don't know if I'm supposed to mention AA.
Oh, no, no, that's all right. I
So
completely
we can back.
neutral and open to all things.
But that's the foundation. So what I
Yeah.
would say is, I looked up and got a
Yeah.
message to follow a certain program, and I did. And it was connection for me. It was connecting. I walked into a meeting and I saw a woman dressed beautifully, and I thought, she must be lost. I wonder what she's doing here. She couldn't be an alcoholic. And she said, you're alcoholic. You need to stay here and get yourself into rehab. And I went home. I called rehab, and I haven't had a drink since then. I went to rehab, and I just grabbed it with
Yeah.
every single ounce of my strength
Yeah.
and thought, this is a second chance, and I'm going to take it. And I
Yeah.
did. And that was, June 2018. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And
Thank you.
I had a very similar experience where I had also hidden bottles and had
Mm,
secretly had a bottle very frequently in my own bedroom, where I would
mm,
dash to drink from when we were entertaining, to have just that extra bit on board. And I'm
Yes,
so glad you mentioned it, because I think it's something that a lot of women do. And I think part of it's born out of the idea of perfectionism, wanting to have a shiny
absolutely.
facade to the outside world.
Uh-huh.
And it's that secrecy and hiding, which often is the only part of their life where they are acting dishonestly. And it
Mm.
grates. And from that comes shame and self-loathing,
Yep,
and
yep,
that it makes the whole battle even more lonelier, enduring, and unsafe,
absolutely.
because you are just
Absolutely.
consuming so much alcohol
It's
that's hidden.
exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an exhausting way to live. It's
Yeah.
born from shame because it's probably like, I train women in fitness and
Mm.
they hide their sugar. They sit in the car and have a pack of snakes and I said,
Oh,
don't be ashamed. If you make the call to do it, do it. But it's
yeah.
it's shame. It's shame because deep down we know it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But when you put the disease factor in of addiction,
Mm.
I knew deep down that I was doing the wrong thing, but it was like someone had taken over my body.
Mm.
And every morning I would say, I will not drink today. And I meant it with
Yeah.
every ounce of my being.
Mm.
And by midday, I was in the car driving to a bottle shop thinking, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get in this car?
Yeah.
And it's the boots full of alcohol again. How did I do this?
Yeah. It's the
It's
addiction
it's
calling, isn't it?
unreal.
It's that
Oh,
alcohol
and it has a
voice.
loud voice.
Yeah. Has
Yeah,
a loud
it has a
voice.
microphone. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Um, how did you start your recovery? How do you think you got it to stick? And what would you
Mm,
say to somebody else that is thinking that they've lost control with alcohol?
sure. First thing I would say is people ask me what's the definition of an alcoholic. I say if you can't stop after one and you can't stop on your own, then those two things are what I was told. And I thought, no, I can't stop after one. And
Mm.
I truly thought it was the sixth or the seventh drink that did it. I didn't realize it was the first. And I tried everything. I read books, I saw psychologists, and I couldn't do it on my own. So I followed a 12-step program. First, I went to rehab
Mm.
and I embraced the 3 weeks of teachings and connection. And I guess just knowing I wasn't alone. I
Yeah.
think, they say the opposite of addiction is connection, and that resonates highly with me because addiction wants you in the house alone so you can do all the things that deep down are wrong. Whereas when you connect with other people who are like-minded, it's like, oh, I'm not alone. And you say something like, oh, I was hiding bottles here, and they say, oh, yeah, I used to do that too.
Ah,
It just decreases the shame. It's like, oh, thank goodness I'm not alone.
yeah.
So for me, definitely the connection aspect. Rehab was first; it planted the seed. Then I came out and I just kept the connection up. And the sober community is
Yes.
an incredible community. There's no judgment. There's just constant help. You've got to do is pick up the phone and say I'm struggling,
Mm.
and someone's always there to say, it's okay, let's talk it through. So pick up the phone before you pick up the drink
Yeah.
really works incredibly well for me. But as well, I think I work on gratitude and service a lot. I do my gratitudes before I get out of bed every morning and before I go to bed every night because I've got a sports science degree. So whether I look at it from a girl point of view or a sports scientist point of view, I know that the brain can't work in gratitude and resentment. So if I switch on gratitude,
Love it.
resentment's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just get into, even if I'm like, ugh, someone said, oh, it must be so sad that you can't take that. You can't have a sit down and have a cocktail with me. And I thought I can get resentful and go, yeah, it sucks. Or I can say, yeah, it's not the greatest, I have to be honest. Sure, I can never have it. But you know what? I have a family that loves me. I have a disease that I can manage. I have a life that is beyond wonderful because now
Yeah.
I know what my disease is and I've got some tools.
That's right.
So I can focus on it's like a peanut allergy. If I was told that eating peanuts, my throat would close and I'd die, I would never pick up a peanut. But alcohol is so different because
And
we are, we're
yes,
such a society of alcohol, of drinkers. We drink
that's
to
right.
celebrate, we drink to commiserate, we drink at weddings, we drink at funerals, we just drink. And if you're
It's
not part of, you need an excuse. I'm
the
pregnant, I'm going
only
to race tomorrow.
That's right. And it's like, it's the only drug that you've got to have an excuse
Yeah,
why you're not
yeah.
drinking it.
Or
Gosh.
pretend wine. Haha, look, I'm
Yeah.
pouring this in here. Pretend wine doesn't work for me,
Mm.
but there's a couple of really fabulous drinks that I've found.
What do you
Um,
love?
so that I'm not, I love ETCH, and it stands for Every Time Choose Health.
Yep.
They are, I know the people that own it, and they are brilliant. They didn't want to do the fake wines. So they've made drinks that are preservative free, sugar free,
Yep.
alcohol free, made sustainably. And it's, I know I can take that out. I've got my local pub now stocking it, and it's a really good drink. And I've just been in contact with
Mm.
Sands Drinks
Fabulous.
out of
Yep.
Brookvale, Irene, yeah. And again, I don't want to do the fake drinks, and I like a citrus taste. So I bought this in Venice, I think it's called, and I just added it with soda water. So someone said,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're just having a pretend Aperol spritz." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not even adding the fake champagne. I'm literally liking the citrus flavor with
Yeah.
some soda water."
Oh,
I don't want to go down the track of walking in with the fake wine, because to me, that's taking me back to day one, where I think I need this for
yes.
self-esteem, self-belief, self-worth. That's not where I
That's
want to
right.
go. It's a
Did
very easy trip.
did you ever try moderating when you
Yeah, I tried
yeah,
everything.
how
Yeah,
did
I
that work
tried
out?
water after wine, and
Yeah.
I'll do Feb fast, and I'll do dry July, and I just couldn't do it, and it frustrated me because I was so good at so many things, but once I had one, I couldn't stop. So then I'd say, well, you work hard, Lisa, you deserve a drink. So it's not that you can't do it, Lisa, it's that you're choosing not to because you don't want to do it. So
Yeah.
I would justify it in any way. But the thought of not having a drink
Yeah.
to me just felt like I may as well chop my legs off and die now. And there's a great expression which I heard, that alcohol went from magic to medicine to madness. And if you can keep it in the magic state, that's great. I started off with it being magic.
Yeah.
Then, it becomes medicinal. I need to drink to calm down after a hard day. But the madness, I just couldn't get beyond the madness then. So I cannot take a chance that I'll go back to magic again, because I just know it won't.
That's right. I mean, when I think of alcohol now, and in fact, I was out on the weekend and somebody popped a gloriously expensive bottle of champagne, and I looked at it and I just thought, that is instant, that 20 minutes of relief, but then
Yes.
immediately after that, when your blood alcohol level starts to fall, you get
Yeah.
that restless,
Yeah.
uneasy, withdrawn feeling, and I never want to have that feeling again.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's such a short-lived, and what gets me as
mm,
well, when I do some work with some young girls, but I
mm,
said, how can our perception is incredible, how can one bottle simultaneously take away our stress after a busy day and amp you up so you can go dancing? It can't do two jobs that are so poles apart. It's up here.
yeah,
So, it just, don't use it for that. If you can have a drink and have one or two and stop, fantastic, good for you. But don't put
yeah,
these magical qualities on it, because it can't do that. It's placebo. Admittedly, sober dancing is a bit tough when I started, because I was like, oh gosh, I've got to. But again, that was me working on my self esteem. So that, no, it's just is what it is. I have to work on me every single day, and
yeah,
I have to work on loving the girl staring back at me, and that's, we all have to do that, whether you're an alcoholic, a grey drinker, or a normal drinker. That's the challenge. And my catch cry is, I think we all want to be happy, healthy, and hot. Not hot in a narcissistic way, but just hot that I think, oh, I like me, and I'm
yeah,
getting better every day.
yeah. Have you noticed around you, and maybe in your immediate family, that you've set an example that's been inspiring and that drinking has decreased? Is there
Um, well, my parents
a
were
ripple?
real
Yeah.
teetotalers. They hardly drank anyway. If anything, that I'd buy wine and pour theirs all the time. And my poor husband, who would be happy having half a beer, how he does that, I have no idea. I say, you're such a normie. How can you just leave that half there? It's not normal. He said, no, remember, you're not normal. I said, oh yeah, that's right. But um, I guess the flip side of that coin is, there's a few friends who don't choose not to invite me to things anymore,
Yeah.
because I think perhaps it shines a mirror on their drinking. Um, And Lisa's a party girl. I still think I'm incredibly fun. But at, probably 4 or 5 hours into the party, I've had enough. But
Yeah.
I know that if I'd had more wine, I would have been able to dance all night. But yeah, I'm done now. I'm done after 4 or 5 hours, and then I can be up at 5 or whatever in the morning and have a good day. But yeah, I think the flip side and answer to your question is there are some people who are really happy. They're like, oh, thank goodness, you're not going to judge me if I don't drink. It's never.
Yeah.
But there's also the other group of friends who Lisa Party Girl is dead to
Yeah.
them. And that's sad. Part of this, did you have that? Did you have friends that?
Oh, I think a lot of my friends had seen the drinking escalate to a point where
Mm,
they were very concerned. And the next thing they heard, then I was in rehab. And when I
yes.
came out, I think, a large part of coming back and settling back into the neighborhood was just my absolute anxiety around how I was going to cope with the stigma of it all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now look at us now on a podcast telling the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I nobody I haven't noticed that there has been a dramatic shift, but I think
Mm,
little shifts in how we catch up and how I want to catch up.
sure.
So
Sure. Your choice.
more activity based and more quality connections with a few friends that were always the moderate drinkers, if could take it or leave it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and new friends, I think. But I'm grateful
Yeah.
to be able to leave when I know that I'm ready, when my feet are sore and I'm
Yeah.
tired. And maybe
Yeah.
part of that is I was always a bit of an extroverted introvert or the opposite way, and I was
Yes.
trying
I
to not
agree with that.
be. Um,
Yep. Like jumping in the pool, thinking
yeah.
you're really funny in your clothes. Which is funny. No, I agree. And my a couple of my mentors say to me, "You are a main part in your movie. You're an extra to everyone else." So I used to think, "Oh, I'm still going to notice I leave," but no one cares.
No,
They might look at you for no one gives a hoot whether I leave or not. And half the time you can sneak out and they're still going anyway. How was it? Oh, great! I had a good time. And what time did you leave? Oh, I have no idea. They don't
exactly.
care.
They don't
They
know.
really don't care. That's the ego getting out of control, thinking that I'm that important.
Yeah.
I'm important in my life and my family's life. I'm important as a sober mama and a sober wife and a sober friend. But really,
Yeah.
no one cares at
No.
all. But back to the other thing we were just talking about. I noticed there's one story that Ali Langdon asked me about. Um, I remember when I was about 6 months sober, so it felt like I was about 6 minutes sober. And I'd found out that I was the organizer of the group. I used to run the club with all the wine and the this and the that and the dinners and the dancing. And
Mm.
this group had a barbecue and didn't ask me. And I was just devastated. So I just rang one of them and said, "Look, I heard you had a barbecue and I didn't get an invitation." And they were just awkward. They said, "But we were serving alcohol." And we just they didn't know what to do. And I said,
Mm.
"Look, if I was a vegetarian and you were having a barbecue, would you ask me there if you were putting meat on a barbie?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, it's the same thing. If I'm uncomfortable, I will say to you, I'm not comfortable, but please give me the choice.
Yeah.
If I promise if I'm not comfortable, I will say, look, it's not a great day for me, or I'm having a weak moment, or this one's not a good one." But to be excluded
Yeah.
reminded me of probably why I used to drink, because I wanted to always be part of. And it was that icky sort of, oh, I'm not part of again. So that was tough. But again, part of the learning curve, and maybe they're not friends anyway.
That's right. And maybe you've planted a seed in a few minds that
Yeah,
there are other options of socializing out there. Um,
yeah, yeah.
it
And
I'm
maybe
s-
we're evolving because we had to. And
yes,
some people stay stuck in the, rinse, repeat, drink, train, wake up, do it all over again. And that's okay too. It far be it from me to judge, but it
yeah,
doesn't work for me. And
no,
I choose not to go back there.
yeah. I'm so glad that you touched on that because I think the greatest reason that people drink is to relieve stress. Um,
Mm,
but the greatest fear of stopping drinking is not being included, and how all of those fears
yeah,
around not being able to socialize. And um, you can. Once you've
Absolutely.
done it a few times, you've
Yeah.
succeeded in it, and that's what we don't remember is that alcohol, it numbs the stress and the anxiety, but it numbs the pleasure
Mm.
as well. So
Absolutely. You can't
socializing,
selectively numb, can you?
that's right. That's right. Um, I just really want to touch on the fact that women aged 45 to 60 are the
Mm.
ones that are drinking at dangerously risky levels more than any other group. And
Massively.
it's one out of
Yeah.
five women to be exact. What do you,
Well, I had
yeah,
2,000 women DM me after the 60 minutes, and I was just,
that's
I,
incredible.
I got back to all of them and just said, "You're not alone." And that was the bottom line was, I thought I was alone. I was just about to drive off a cliff. I was just about, what do you suggest I do? And I'm not a doctor. I could only share my story,
Yeah.
not only, but that was what was available to me. But I think they were relieved to know that they weren't alone, and that
Mm.
help was out there, and there was a community out there, and as you said, choices out there, because when I first got sober, it was Diet Coke, orange juice, or mineral water, and you do feel like a baby. That's what I did when I was a teenager, and now I'm back doing all that again. Whereas at least now we do have some choices, and that's what I said to these women. If you're not an alcoholic as such, and you want to if you feel better taking one of the zero sugar, zero alcohol wine with you, if that's going to give you confidence to get you over the hump,
Yeah.
do that. Use whatever. Use vanity, and know that not putting the extra sugar and toxins in your body is going to make you look better, feel better. Use anything you can. Know that you're going to be a better mother, a better person. You know, primarily do it for yourself. But if that's not enough
Mm.
to propel you, use everything. But I
Yeah.
think we're trying to be so perfect, and the
Yes.
mask we wear eventually cracks, and it's too heavy to hold up anymore. That's what I found.
Yeah.
And I think also it's small steps. It's just today I won't drink, and then
Mm.
maybe tomorrow I'll try again. Or don't think 6 months down the track, because that is scary. Oh, what am I going to do when my daughter gets married, or my son? Well, I'm not even there. So just deal with today. But having options,
Mm.
and I was very fortunate to go on the Today Show earlier in the year around New Year's Eve, um, to talk about some of the drinks that are available to us. But it was really important to me that I also showed them that don't choose one that's high in sugar, because
Oh,
you're replacing the witch for the bitch, because
yeah.
then you've got the sugar addiction coming in, and you've got that to deal with. So there are some fabulous options that are no alcohol, no sugar, and give you something pretty to hang on to. And if that's going to give you a bit of confidence, do it.
Fine. Yeah.
I think it's so important that you can walk out of the house instead of being terrified, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be drinking, and do a couple of gratitudes before you go, take your bottle, your pretty bottle of whatever, and feel nice. And also know you've got a plan to leave when you want to leave. If it all gets too much,
Yeah.
leave,
Yeah.
because we've got choice. And in that 40 plus age bracket, we're not teenagers anymore. We have choice. And I think to empower women to know, a few of them said to me, "Oh, but you can't drink anymore." And I said, "No, I can. Don't take my power away from me. I can drink. I choose not to,
Yeah.
because I have to play the movie forward to the end, and the credits aren't good.
Yeah.
So if I choose not to drink, but don't say, oh no, I can't drink. Yes, you can. And you're choosing not to, and good for you. That's amazing.
That's
But
my
give yourself
mantra.
back some power.
Yes.
And
And
why do we disempower ourselves?
oh, I don't know. And I think it comes back again to the perfectionism or the rules
Yeah,
and shame. And we know that shame does
yeah,
nothing to help propel you forward. But I was, uh, I needed my autonomy to be respected. I also needed to
mm,
say to myself, it's my choice. And
yes,
I'm choosing to be healthier. And that
yeah,
was such an important thing that I needed to say
yeah,
very often. And, um, you know, it's just a bit of a mind game. It's hard, certainly for the first 2 to 3 months, I would say. And then the first year was a real milestone. And then after that, it really got
definitely.
easier. When did it get easier for you? Um, and I guess
Uh,
how,
yeah.
yeah, no, you go, Lise. Lisa go?
Todd was still in the big job, so we had a lot of functions, a lot of weddings, a lot of big Dalium events that were cameras, and that was tough, but it also, I had to frock up and front up, and it sort of put a bit of a rocket up me to go, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I would occasionally walk away and just go to the toilet and just take a few breaths and say, I've got this, I've got this. And knowing I had such a supportive, loving husband on my arm, you okay? We can leave if you need to. No, I've got this. This is great. I don't know when it got easier. That's a fabulous question. I think it just gets different because
Good way of saying it.
sometimes getting easier can lead to complacency too. I know women who've got to 20 years sober and just thought, I've got this and I'll have one. And that terrifies me.
Yeah.
So maybe that's too easy. So I don't want to ever get too easy. I want to be on my guard, but I will constantly look at the benefits that outweigh all the negatives.
Yeah.
But I never want to get complacent because I know I'm one reach away from ever going down there. And the people I know who've relapsed say they pick up exactly where they left off. So if they were doing 2 bottles of wine a day, they're 2+.
Yes, I've heard that too.
Doesn't,
Yeah.
And I don't think I've got one more recovery in me. So I'm just going to work on some.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with this one. It's working now.
That's a good message. I love it. The work that you do, serving, supporting others who are struggling to cope with alcohol is just so valuable, because the insights that, the wounded healer almost, or the mentor that's got lived experience has such insights, no judgment. And it's that real ability just to say, I've been there and you can get through. So
it's
valuable.
authentic, right? Yeah.
Really authentic. And I loved those people around me when I was going through it as well. What do you do when people approach you and they're just saying, look, I'm at that point. Where should where should I seek help? What would be your top 3 tips?
I would always say, where are they at? Are you prepared to put sobriety first in your life? Because that's, if you're sort of half, no, maybe I'll put it second. It has to be number 1 in your life. And I remember thinking, but no, my family's first. And then I was very, very quickly told, well, you have no family if you're not sober.
Yep.
So I think the first thing you've got to have an awareness that there's a problem. I have the 5 A's. I have awareness that there's a problem, acceptance that there's a problem. You've got to articulate, because if you can talk about it, then you've got to take action, then you've got to have appreciation. But if you don't know you've got a problem, you can't fix it. But once you do know, then I think not overthinking sobriety. Rehab for me, I can only advise what worked for me. Rehab was a good 3-week, which I'll never have again. And I recently just got another young girl into rehab, and I said, you'll never get 3 weeks like this again for you. Never. Because it's the only time you can work on you wholly and solely and come out a far stronger person. So I would say rehab, I would say sober community of any sort, when it's 12-step, whether it's psychologist. I think having the 12-step community is incredible, because we're all like-minded. And then I also, because I've got my sports science degree, I thoroughly recommend fitness.
Absolutely.
I think fitness is massive. You get the same dopamine hit. You look in the mirror and you think, I like this body. And if we said, 45+, we're already starting to lose muscle tone.
Yes.
So what are we going to say? Oh, your muscles gone. No, let's use that's why I did my YouTube. And that's, I've got a Choose Change challenge coming up, which is about being your best you. And I give them some tips on nutrition and on exercising, and it's empowering. It's empowering. So fitness and fitness, food, movement, muscle. But I think they've got to have the awareness that sobriety has to be first in my life. Because without it, nothing else. I can't exercise. Because you've got nothing else.
That's right. And you have to own it. You have to want it. And it has to be your choice.
Yep. And you don't have to be loud and proud. I mean, you and I are quite happy to be open. If you want to be quiet about it, that's absolutely
Oh,
fine. I respect that as well.
that's right. And I
But I'm,
was so quiet about it
yeah,
until I felt confident
yeah,
about
yes.
it. Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
people who say to me, "Oh, I just wish you'd be a little bit quieter about it." And I said, "Well, I respect that. I respect that. That's your opinion, but I can't help the 2,000 women have asked me to if I don't use Todd's profile,
Yes.
because
Yes.
and if I'd heard my story, maybe I would have gone down the track. And what it doesn't matter that he said, she said, maybe would have sort of put it. Doesn't matter. I'm
Yeah.
here where I am now, and I choose not to go back, and I choose to share my story, to
Yeah.
learn and share every day, because something might resonate, and it may not be a whole sobriety, but it might just water the seed in, and then someone might take something home and say, "Gee, that isn't actually
Mm.
working for me," and maybe I don't have to be. Maybe it's not cool to have a drink. In my mind, it was always, I loved Grease. You're my hero. Grease was just my favorite movie. And Sandra D, I always thought in my head I was the Sandra D with the puffy sleeves, and I wanted to be the black tights Sandra D or Sandy. I wanted to be Sandy, and I was Sandra D. And alcohol in my mind made me Sandy. And without alcohol, I was Sandra D. Look at me, I'm Sandra D. And now I'm just like, no, I can. If I want to be Sandra D, I can. If I want to be Sandy, I can. Regardless,
Oh,
it's without alcohol.
I think there's a
I'm
lot.
so
Oh,
Sandy.
yes. There's a lot. There's so much in that, isn't there? Because
Yeah.
you're the rebelliousness is what
Mm.
is being sober. So being the one that's acting against, independently against all
Yeah.
the advertising, against all the cultural trends, is actually being that autonomous rebellious figure. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Lisa, what is on the agenda for you next, and where can people find you?
I have an Instagram page that I absolutely love. It's at Lisa G Perfectly Imperfect, because as we discussed,
It's fabulous. Yeah.
perfectly imperfect. And I love being sober, and I love aerobics. I'm an old 80s aerobics girl. I used to teach aerobics all the time. So I put them together, and I was on Channel 7. I was talking about sober aerobics. I said, sober aerobics to me, the two things I love. And again, for women, empowering them, they don't want to go to the gym. They're uncomfortable in their bodies. There's a 3-minute routine twice a week that you can do in your lounge room. I've had 80-year-old women call me and say, I love that flash dance one I've been doing. They send me a video of them doing it, and that's the best. It's no charge, and it's moving your body and feeling good. And so it's about, for me, fitness. It's about food. So I'm always doing nutrition information, because I won't recommend anything unless I've tried it.
Yeah.
Fashion, I do a fashion Friday where I'll go and,
Oh, I
Q
love
had a
it.
sale the other day. I tried on all these dresses,
It's
and
so
I'd
good.
photograph them, just with my little ring light. And,
And that beautiful
I've been asked to
color,
give,
all the pops of color that you
I
put
know
on.
how good.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I've been asked to give another International Women's Day speech. I've been asked by a really very, very large company to give a keynote address middle of the year. And I guess I don't want to be defined as an alcoholic. I don't hide from it by any means, but it was a conduit for me to demonstrate that life is incredible.
Yeah.
Life is amazing. And it was my springboard into living a phenomenal life.
Yeah.
And, if I think it's too narrow to say, oh, Lisa can only talk about alcohol. That was my thing. For other women, they've called me and said, I'm struggling in my marriage. And I said, well, the same rules apply. It all comes down to self-belief, self-love, self-worth.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those three things, then you are going to struggle with alcohol, with sex, with addictions, with drugs, with staying in a marriage that you don't like. We have to work on ourselves first.
Yeah.
And then all these extraneous things, we won't need them,
Yeah.
And for you and I, we're the next step up. We choose not to have it because perhaps we can't stop with one. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I know if I have one, I'm done.
Oh, I
But
think I'm in that
that's my
category.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
some can, and that's
Yeah.
great. But I think it really, really comes down to, it's so broad. Move your body, put some nice clothes on it, feel good, and if I can do all of that and be a good example for people, then
Yeah.
I'm seriously the luckiest girl ever. I've got energy, and I look younger than I did. I mean, I'm 53, and um, people keep saying, if you had a facelift, I said, no, I just literally,
Live well,
I
and I'm
don't put
alcohol
poison in my
free.
body. Absolutely, absolutely. And I move my body every day. I do my 20,000 steps. I eat high protein, high fiber.
Yeah.
And I will only, now, because I was such a liar and so selfish, I will only speak my truth. And if
Oh,
something's, I will, I think it was Buddha, they put it down to, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? If
yeah.
it doesn't pass through all three gates, is it necessary? No. Is it kind? Yep.
Yep.
Is it true? Well, sorry, I don't say it because
Yeah.
I'm not judge and jury.
Yeah. I
I don't
agree
have
with
to
that,
be.
because it's that sort of need to be it's almost, I think it was a book somewhere, The Dopamine Nation, where she was talking about
Mm,
the need for radical honesty in all
mm,
levels of your life. And I feel it too, that need to be very carefully authentic, because when I'm
very.
not, it's a
Yep.
reminder of that horrible stage when I had this deep, dark secret of hiding so much of who I was. Never want to go there
So
again.
we go the other extreme.
Yes,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think we don't have to go there and tell everything. We can be selective and
Yeah,
just say, well, that's not my side of the street. I'm sticking here. I'm going to be kind. And if you're doing something that I don't agree with, it's
yeah.
not my business.
Oh,
It's
thank
not
you
my
so
business.
much.
Pleasure.
Lisa, I loved it just really quickly when your
Sure.
husband said that you are his superhero.
Oh,
And that, that made me get a bit teary, because my husband's very similar.
mm,
That rock, that saw it, witnessed it, and then got to the point where he just was like, that's it. And he often says,
yeah.
amazing, to say, babes, you're amazing, to have got to this point. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Aren't we fortunate, because we are the
Yeah.
minority of marriages
Oh,
that
yes. Yeah.
withstand addiction, and
Yeah.
I think we are better wives because of that adversity in our lives.
You bet.
That rock bottom has made us who we are, and sure, it would have been better to not go through it, but we have. So, as I said in 60 Minutes, my husband wishes he had hair. I wish I wasn't an
I know, I
alcoholic.
loved it.
We are both, but we had to actually film that a couple of times, because when I said it authentically, and Ali Langdon just burst out laughing. She said, I'm sorry, we'll have to do that again. I said, but everything's been first take. She said, I know, but that was just so funny. So we did it 3 or 4
It
times
was
and then
good.
laughing, because it was real, but we just got the giggles through it. So
Oh, I
yeah, I'm
love it.
very, very grateful. And I'm very grateful for you doing this podcast too, because if we
Oh,
get the message out that regardless, grey drinker, problem drinker,
yeah.
it's a choice, and choose to be the best you can be. I don't think it's with alcohol. If you can
Yeah.
have one or two and enjoy it with milk, if you're a normie,
Fine.
good for you.
Yeah.
But if you're using it if it's gone to the madness stage,
Yeah.
and I don't judge, I'd say, well, why don't you have a break? Try to have a month break. The pubs aren't going to close. The
Yeah.
alcohol shops aren't going to close. They're going to be there. So
Yep.
if you decide after a month, no, I can do this, go back to it. But you've
Yeah.
got nothing to lose having a little break.
It's very good advice. And then you can work out, sorry, great advice, because you can work out after that 30 days, are you still fixated? Are you still thinking
Yeah.
about it all the time?
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
still,
the mental obsession.
gymnastics? It's exhausting.
Oh my gosh. Remember wrapping up the bottles I used to wrap them so they wouldn't clink,
Oh,
clink in the back. Oh,
Lisa, my
seriously
husband
exhausting.
found what must have been 40 bottles hidden, wrapped up
Mm.
in a
You forget where you
closet.
put them. Oh, well,
Oh,
I
you
did.
do. You
I
do.
forgot,
And then years later, I
forgot where
could
I
be
put them.
cleaning up and go, oh, gosh.
How
Anyway,
sober are you?
nearly 3 years.
Wonderful.
Nearly 3 years. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we got
Goodness
7.5 between us. Lucky 7. That's
So
pretty special.
it is. I just appreciate your time so much, and the positive energy that you exude and give to others. Just thank you so
It's
much
real.
for
It's very real. My pleasure.
sharing
Thank you
your
for asking
story.
me. And if anyone wants to do some sober aerobics, just log on and they can have all my contagious energy. Well, I hope
Yeah,
they get it through the
it
screen
is so
anyway.
much. It is so much fun. Just ask my sister and I, who put it on for a bit of a jiggle and a giggle today. It's so good.
We like wiggling and jiggling. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for being brave enough to share yours as well.
Thank you, Lisa.